when reading a life history dementia journal that your father has written prior, if he says, I don't remember that, you can say, I know, Dad, but as we go through this, you'll be able to recognize and realize, and often then what happens is that it does spark your past memories, as has happened before. So this is the positive, compassionate, practical way of approaching it, because as you go through, all those memories and experiences that you've had with your father and that your father has had, that is documented in photos and nice script in large print that he can read, that reading, that recognition, that realization through talking will often activate that cognition, those, cognitive tracks, those neural pathways, so that past memory is often activated, past memory being more easily activated than present memory. So this is a way to be able to work through things with your father and be able to get that connection and communication and warmth. And of course, when the person with dementia feels relaxed, as with all of us, when we're relaxed and all that tension goes and there's that clarity, we're more likely to be able to remember. And certainly we're more likely to be able to, have that cognition and that comprehension from that cognition. And if you, set the whole thing up so that you're comfortable and warm and in a nice, lovely, sunny spot, maybe in his room with the two-seater sofa, looking out on the mountains, you can sit there for a good hour, quietly going over the photos and taking your time. And also in a quiet environment as well, where there's not so much disturbance and stress, especially at the start when you're starting this exercise, to get this cognition going. A quiet environment is better so that there's not disturbance and he can just focus on that one thing. And, of course, at the same time as he's hopefully, getting some sparked memories, it's bringing him into the present moment, and it's bringing you into the present moment. And when we're in the present moment, we know that we always feel more positive and calm, and, we're more receptive, and with that clearer thinking, ideas come that we maybe haven't, thought of before. And this can also happen with the dementia resident as well. And often things that he may well not have talked about with you at home. Once you have these photos there of the farm, he can maybe remember how many sheep there were or cattle there were, and, why he enjoyed sheep farming, and, or, the neighbours, the neighbouring farms, what they were up to. And, there can be all sorts of details that you can learn about the farm that you didn't know before. And it's also a good idea to get other things that will prompt that recognition and help with those memory tracks as well, so that if, for example, you're reading the dementia journal and it has a lot about the farm, it's also good to bring in a nice big photo of the farm, which most farmsteads have, certainly in New Zealand, and have that on the wall so he can see it from his, favourite armchair, and he can reminisce on that. So any other aspects that you can think of in terms of the farm, and getting that recognition of the farm and the history of the farm and his life will always help. He might have some little statues of cows or sheep or something like that. The favourite things that he had in his room or lounge at home, little ornaments, even his favourite clock. It's really good to keep these items because it just helps with orientation. Anything that's familiar chair, familiar clock, familiar bookcase, that if that's around him, then it will feel more like home. And we're always more relaxed at home, and we need to try and get that homely environment happening in the home, in his little room, so that then he can adjust, and hopefully anxiety will settle and he can improve his skills. And hopefully he's always, like, if for example he's always been a good reader, actually it's really important, not just with the dementia journal, to have that there, maybe keep that in a a place where it's not likely to be lost when wanderers come ruffling through, maybe to get a photocopy of the book. If you're keeping one in the room at the dementia facility, maybe have a photocopy of another book at home in case it does, go missing. So as you're working with this reading with your father, it's also good to bring in other books for him to be able to read so that he can, have a variety. If he's always enjoyed the newspaper, even if he's not reading that well, even if he's only reading the headlines, it's still good to get the subscription for the newspaper. And if, for example, he's like National Geographic, they're fantastic magazines because they've got big titles, beautiful pictures, and from that he'll be able to get some recognition and understanding just from the visual, presentation in the magazine, and particularly if he's been a big reader of it lifelong, all that familiarity will be there for him to be able to tune into it and get some appreciation and enjoyment of it. So these are just some examples of being able to help your father with reading and having that compassionate approach and not being concerned if they forget. They will forget. Of course they'll forget because they've got dementia. But we just remind them and we help them recognise, help them remember, help them realise, and we just prompt them. And as we prompt them and they see that we're relaxed with the process, we're okay with the process, working it through. I mean, even if they forget your name, just say, oh, you know me, Dad, I'm Sue, your daughter, and I visit here every Saturday. And, he'll say, oh, yes, I remember that now. Just if they have a memory blank, they will have dementia blanks and dementia spins from time to time. Not all the time, but when they are in that state, you can see it. They're tense, they freeze up, they go a bit pale, glazed eyes. At that time, there won't be memory because that's what that dementia episodes do, is they just wipe everything out. But if you just let them lie down and have a rest and just be there with them until they get over it, give them encouragement all the way that, Dad, this has happened before, you'll get through it, it will be all right. And it might take an hour or so for them to settle from that. And then you can go back to the reading after that and sort of work with them. And you'll find in time the best approach and the best way of being able to manage all these things. But reading helps so much with the whole process. So whatever favourite reading your father used to have, bring it in. And especially if he likes it, bring in as much variety as you can, because it fills the day. And not just that, it helps him with the cognition and the memory tracks to be able to, distance and detach as much as practically possible from all that dementia stress, which they valiantly have to cope with. I mean, they're such wonderful people, aren't they? Having to cope with that and all the stresses and strains of dementia, you can imagine. So the more that we can help them practically and positively, the better. So I've written these 2 books on all these techniques, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. And in the description below, the website www.pietavalentine.com. Under excerpts in the website, you'll be able to read the first chapter in each book, and also on Amazon as well. The books are there, and you can read the first 2 chapters, first 2 chapters of each book on Amazon. And if you're a member of Amazon, as many of you are, then easy to get there. Another thing is in the reviews in the website, there's 25 of the initial videos on room setup in the resident's voice and how to deal with things like anger, anxiety and depression and activities. And from this book, those 25 videos are on the website, but the extended videos are all here on YouTube. But there's a lot there, and just scroll through and start with the videos that work for you. I mean, if someone is going into a dementia unit though, really the initial videos of this whole YouTube series and the videos in here are essential reading and viewing, because there are so many things you do need to know really going into a dementia facility, which I'm receiving also now in comments from you. And the more prepared you are, the better, because there is a lot to learn and it can be a shock to the system if you're not prepared, even as the relative, let alone the resident going in. So all this homework, but it will get easier if you can prepare and set yourself up knowing this knowledge in advance. So thank you for your looks and your likes, and please pass on to others. I can see that you're doing that. Thank you very much.